chief guest at this important meeting, the Honorable Chief Justice, the Honorable Lady Justice Murgo, representing the Chief Justice, Madame Philomena Mwilu, Dennis Mutahi, representing Cabinet Secretary of Public Service and Gender, Professor Margaret Kobia, the Principal Secretary, State Department of Youth Affairs, and my brother Julius Sunkuli, the Director, Judicial Training Institute, my friend. I'm very proud to say he's my friend. Sometimes I mention this and people respect me more. Justice Mwinoti Kathurima. I have to recognize Justice Mwongo. I don't know whether he remembers me. But one time I wrote a letter over there to him to request him to come and make a presentation at the Kenya School of Government. And I recall it was on the matter of terrorism. And he actually came. I gave him only 2 days' notice. I think it was travesty of justice. And yet it worked. And he gave made a great presentation on that occasion. Distinguished participants at this meeting, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure to stand before you and to make a few remarks on the important subject of youth affairs in our country. I have no written speech, but I'll try to appear as if I'm reading a speech. First of all, I would like to recognize the tremendous work that the government is doing to promote the interests of the youth in our country. One time I attended a youth meeting and speaker after speaker made reference to a cliche that I don't agree with, and which is that the government isn't doing enough to support the youth, and so on. So I made reference to just the government budget, and I asked what share goes to the Ministry of Education, and who does the Ministry of Education cater for, and so on and so forth. And so I also made reference to the different youth support schemes and programs that government has introduced, particularly aimed at empowering the youth to start and prosper in business. And I asked whether there was anyone in the audience who had applied for, for support under the youth fund. And surprisingly, no one had. It even seemed like no one knew about it. But we were too ready to criticize, what government is doing to support the youth and so on. I asked whether there was anyone who had applied for work under the AGPO program, and no one had. Yet again, government has done a lot to support this. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to commend the State Department of Youth Affairs and our government for the tremendous work that has been done to support the youth of this country. I also recognize my brother Raymond here. He's even more passionate. I think we couldn't have gotten a better candidate for the position of Secretary, Youth Affairs. Ladies and gentlemen, the Kenya School of Government has stepped forward to participate in the effort to promote the interests of the youth in our country. We have established a variety of training programs specifically targeting the youth. We have the Student Leadership Program, which we run at the Kenya School of Government, and mostly caters for youth leaders from our universities. It is a very, very busy program. Recently, we had a session in Mombasa campus. It was very, very well attended. We also have a youth empowerment program, through which we seek to provide the youth with information about the opportunities that exist in our country, within our government, that they could exploit to build themselves up. It includes establishment of a portal where such information is made available. And we have established a center, the first center for this purpose at Isiolo, in partnership with the county government of Isiolo. It's meant to cater for the many counties in that region, and with support from UK Aid and UNDP. Raymond was actually present on that occasion, UNDP. And we're going to replicate this program to other parts of the country. We also have a program that seeks to protect the youth against misappropriation by evil forces in our society, in our world. So we have a program on countering violent extremism in partnership with the National Counterterrorism Center, and I think with support from USAID and other partners. And through this program, we have been able to support the youth and to protect them against conscription into the evil work of Osama bin Laden that Raymond talked about. We want to change the word differently, not in the way Osama has tried to do. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to mention this. I don't know whether you'll consider it trivial, but let me just say that at the Kenya School of Government, we have established a football club. It is called Kenya Football Club Ogopa. Kenya School of Government Football Club Ogopa. By that name alone, opponents get so intimidated that when the center forward is approaching their goal, the goalkeeper just runs away. And so we have been able to beat all the teams that have come our way. And now we are on top of the table in our category. The point here, Honorable Chief Justice, is that we have to do our part in supporting the youth in every way possible. In this particular case, we are developing youth talent. And I go to watch youth playing at school level and so on. And whenever I do that, the aim is to identify, targets for such talent development program. And I bring them at KSG. Fortunately, the Kenya School of Government Act gives the Director General some powers to employ people in the level of temporary staff and so on. And I use those powers, Mr. Raymond, to bring in the youth so they can join the Kenya Football Club, Kenya School of Government Football Club, Ogopa. And so we have youths there playing so well. And in the process, we are able to really support them in many other ways, even by way of employment. And I would like to encourage organizations that are represented in this room to partner with KSG so that some of these team players can get more permanent jobs in your organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, my last remark, kind of interesting one, but if I were an ordinary person, I would not have mentioned it. But I will mention it, since I'm not ordinary. You see, I read the newspaper yesterday about, exams having begun. But there was the story that a lot of girls could not either do the exam, or while the exam was kicking off, they were in labor, either in hospital and so on, delivering babies. And these are little girls who are supposed to be at school studying. So I think that we haven't done enough to protect our little girls and our young girls, and we have a responsibility to do this. The first step is not to blame them. I think that the first step is to blame ourselves, because the question will always be, what did we do about it? And I think we must go beyond the orthodox conventional approach that we have adopted so far, that is, advising and, encouraging and so on. Now, how do you advise, particularly reckless men in our society? These girls don't look for these men. These men look for these girls. They entice them in every manner, every way possible. Whenever I attend funerals and so on in our hometown and community, the assistant chief keeps warning border riders. I hear they are the culprits, and other people in society from doing all of this. But why should we just stay at the level of warning? We must now take action. Somebody must go to jail. This should be an offense. Not just because the girl is underage, that's not enough. Even if the girl is above age 18, culpability can still be established around the man who encouraged all of this. I studied in Canada, Raymond, and lived there for 5 years. And over there are rules around such matters that are very stringent, extremely stringent. And there is, and Honorable Justice Mulgor and justices in our room, happy to have you. There is something there called statutory rape. I think in our country, rape is rape in very straightforward definition, right? But over there is something called statutory rape, which means that the lady could have cooperated, but behind that seeming cooperation, there could have been some measure of duress, either psychological or mental, or you enticed just because you have a border. So on the face of it, there is it called cooperation, willingness, and so on the face of it. But behind it, there is a measure of compulsion, manipulation, duress, and so on. And courts go into that, and people get punished for what would have seemed to be just a happy-go-lucky engagement. So here is something we have to begin to think about, how to punish culprits in this particular. I visited Doha. I think I must end my remarks now. I visited Doha, and over there, I came to learn that they have culture police unit, a police unit dedicated to police the culture of the community. And so there are elements of culture practices that you could see encourage such things to happen in our society. And so we can detect this early enough and protect our youth from such conduct in our society. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I would like to thank the State Department of Youth Affairs and also Hesabika for the internship program that has been promoted, developed, worked out, and which we are launching. And the Kenya School of Government will be pleased to sign the MOU that has been drafted, around which we'll be able to roll out the programs that have been thought out at the tripartite level between the State Department of Youth Affairs, Kenya School of Government, and the SABIC. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.